Hey, yet another week to learn about ready to wear process. So today we are going to be a bit more technical and I'm going to tell you all that as we begin this week's episode. Welcome you subscribers, and see you in a bit. So yes, I've changed my set once again. This might be the permanent set. I will decide. I guess it depends on how I view it when I'm editing. That's what actually determines the decision. And you're welcome. I hope you managed to catch up with the last two episodes about basically the preparation stage of ready-to-wear collections and the things they need to consider. This week's episode is a bit more technical. I get into patterns, tech packs, and line sheets. So for patterns, there are very many different types of patterns, and I will touch basically an overview of patterns because later on in the year, maybe next month, I will get more into the parts of a pattern, because I know there are people who look at patterns and they don't even know which side is up, which side is down, what it means. I'm going to get more into drafting and patterns and freehand patterns and commercial patterns and digital patterns more in depth next month. I think I'll have to check my schedule, but I'm going to do an overview of patterns because there are some certain patterns you need to have when you're creating your collection. I'm also going to talk about the tech pack, and the tech pack is basically what you need if you're outsourcing your production. It's very important if you're working in the factory that you have a tech pack because there are very many elements to it. I am going to give you an overview of what should be included in a tech pack. There are very many different templates for tech packs. People use them differently. So I'm just going to tell you according to my research what I found useful, and it's going to be more in voice-over format. I'm also going to talk about line sheets, which are usually part of a tech pack but sometimes used separately. And I hope that you'll find this information very, very useful, and I guess I will see you at the end of this because the footage will be voice-over so that you can be able to save, screenshot, everything. And please understand that the information I'm giving you is available publicly. So what I'm giving you is not necessarily even my examples or my work, but also things I found on the internet. So I'm not claiming that I own these things. I just use them as examples to show you and to demonstrate what they are. So hope you'll enjoy the episode, and let's begin. Patterns. So patterns are basically the art of manipulating and shaping a flat piece of fabric to conform to more than one of the human curves. So basically to conform to your body, and there are many ways of making it. There's drafting, draping, and flat paper patterns. There's also other ways it's done now technological wise, which I'll explain at the end of this slide. Basically, drafting is derived from measurements that are taken collectively from a sample people. So basically, there are basic sizes. I'm sure if you've bought clothes that have been manufactured in mass, you probably buy clothes according to a size, and sometimes they fit you accurately because it's made from standard sizing. So that is how drafting works. The basic concept is derived from that, but you can also basically modify them to suit a different size. They don't have to remain like that. Then there's draping, where you basically use fabric to put on a form. Most of the time it's a mannequin, and then you get a 3D dimension of the fabric and how the outfit will look, and then you shape it according to how you want it to come out. And then there's a flat pattern making, which is actually very popular in Africa, what a lot of people call freehand cutting, which is basically you get to make a pattern that fits a human body. So you just use human measurements. And then there is softwares that are used to create patterns. This is usually from drafting, and then they are put on the computer, and then you can size them up and size them down. Some people also do draping, then they do drafting, then they do this computer software patterns. And then, of course, there's a 3D body scanner. This is the latest technology, not available to everybody. Basically, there are apps and other tools you can use where your body is scanned, and with smartphones and good cameras, you can actually scan your body and it gets measurements, and it can create a pattern or create an outfit or print your dress and everything like that. So that in a nutshell is about patterns, and now I'm going to show you a bit of my cutting process with a pattern that I drafted, that I actually got from the basic blocks from the drafting, and then you just see how I usually lay it out. It's just a very brief video, so enjoy. As I had explained in last week's video, basically I decided on the fabric that I'm going to use and the designs. You're seeing them on top. And then I basically start with a basic block. And with this block, you trace it and then you manipulate it into the specific design you want to make. So like here I'm cutting the neck of one of the necklines of one of the dresses. That's the back I'm cutting. And then after that, if you want to widen it, you widen it to create the shape you want. So I'll explain all that next week. After you are done with manipulating the pattern, you can see here I lay it on the fabric with how I would want certain aspects of the print to appear on the fabric. So you pin it, look at it, change it to where you want it to be. If you want to move it up, move it down. Just have to make sure that it fits. And then once you've done that, you basically cut it and prepare it for sewing. Techpack or technical pack is something that contains everything required to make a garment. So from sample to bulk production to finishing and to packaging, it basically contains all that information. And there are various components of a tech pack. This is one of the simplest ones I found from that website that I have written at the bottom. And there are some that have more requirements and some have less requirements, but I thought that this would be sufficient. Do take a screenshot of it so that you can be able to refer to it. But I would rather go more in depth into examples of a tech pack. So you can see from the examples in the next slides that it's basically technical sketches. The first one, of course, shows you simpler ones because they don't have a lot of details. As you proceed, you'll see that some even have information written on the sketches, measurements written on the sketches and all that. So these are just examples. I am just going to show you an example in the next clip, but I just wanted to show you an overview of how tech packs usually look. Of course, they look different depending on who you're sending to and who consulted for you and all that. But this is, in a nutshell, this is how tech packs look. I would like to acknowledge that this specific example is from SewHeidi. She has a website called Successful Fashion Designer. She also has a YouTube channel called SewHeidi where she talks a lot about tech packs and making money from basically digitally in the fashion industry. You can buy templates from her website for personal use or for commercial use, just to be able to develop your own tech packs. So she's a very good resource for tech packs in general. So do check her out. So I am going to use the leggings that are in this picture, and I'm using them specifically because they're the easiest ones to explain. And I have an example where she went into very great detail. And as you can see that it comes in different colorways. There are two specific designs. The design generally is the same, but the colors are different. So there is the purple one and there is the white one, but both leggings are black. So we're going to get into the details of now the parts. You can see from this view, this is the view of the crouch, and that's basically underneath the legging in between your legs. So you have to draw specifically how you want it to look. And you've noticed if you have leggings most of the time or tights, you'll always see that there's a triangular piece. You've seen that in this specific diagram, it's really been noted. It's so that you can know the back side of the legging, the front side, how the triangle should face, meaning that the sharper point should be at the front. So those are the kind of details that you're supposed to get into. Next, you see the waistband, and she also goes into detail, even writing the size of the waistband. There's the outside and the inside of the garment, meaning that there are pieces of the leggings that you'll see inside that you will not see outside, and she goes on to explain what those are. So that's also another detail. And then she goes on to explain the next part of the waistband, where she's decided to add a drawstring, and she's written exactly where it should be, the size of the drawstring, the elasticity, width, that it has to have a buttonhole, and how the ends of the drawstrings will be finished. So it's very important to write those kind of details as well. Next, now on the slide, you can see she gets into more specifics. Basically the type of fabric, the supplier, you have to write to your supplier where you're getting that fabric from, and then you refer to the fabric. Maybe you have a catalog where they tell you the number of the fabric or something, that's the reference number of the fabric. Then the description of the fabric, jersey is a stretch fabric. The kind of finishing she wants, it's written there. The content of the fabric, basically what the fabric has, it's nylon and spandex. The weight of the fabric is also very important because tights come in different weights. The heavier it is, the more expensive it is. The kind of construction it's going to have, which is neat. Then there is the black and white one, and then there is fuchsia, or I said purple and black. So it explains that there are two colors specifically for this design. Next, she gets into the details on the tights. So basically, the type of pocket bag that it will have, which is kind of a plastic one, then where the vendor again, the fabric reference number again, the fact that it's jersey again, the placement, basically top of this seam, bottom of this seam, or where the drawstring is, then the size, it's 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch, then of course the colorways as well. Next, you can see labels and hang tags. Basically, you know how you have labels at the back of your outfit, on the neck or at the back of your short. All those you have to actually decide where you want them done, because even it matters depending on the size of the outfit. If you want it hanging outside like some designers do, the measurement between where it starts and where it finishes might be actually a very important measurement. So the more detail you get into, the better. So here she gets into those kind of details. If it's an interior label, where the supplier comes from, the reference number, the placement, how many you put on each outfit. Is it metallic? Is it black and white? Is it clear? All those matter. This specific slide is very technical. So POM there means point of measure, and TOL means tolerance, basically adding and reducing tolerance. So, and this other side is a code also used for measurement. So you can see here, you even get into the different sizes you're going to make. Is it small, extra small, medium, large, extra large? And you can see there's a lot of information for the manufacturer to be able to follow, whether it is half waist at the top or half high waist and all that. Like basically it just gets into a lot of detail. And then also lastly, this slide also is another example of the more details, the code, the point of measure, the tolerance, and other measurements and things like that. So I guess it usually, of course, it's on a case-to-case basis. It really does depend on who is manufacturing, who has done for you the sheet and the requirements. I will not say that this is something everybody does. It really depends on who is doing the manufacturing for you. So I just thought this is a very good example to show you just how much work Techpacks are. So next is the line sheet, which I had mentioned earlier that it is part of the Techpack, but they have different specifications as shown on your screen: product code, product description, technical sketch, detailed measurements, placement details, materials and trims, reference materials, and graded specs. So you can see there's a lot of similarities in what we have already seen in the Techpack, but I am going to show you images of what line sheets look like, because that's actually what you give buyers most of the time, the people who are going to buy, people who are interested in ordering for things in your collection. And this is not what you give the manufacturer, but it is part of it. Here are a few examples of some line sheets. As you can see, they all have different details. I guess it depends on who made the line sheet or the kind of information you want to portray. Some of them have prices, some of them don't have. A lot of them are blank. Basically, they don't have a human being wearing them. Some of them are in flat sketches, basically the sketch, and then it shows the kind of colors it comes in, because there are some buyers who like to see the details of the flats, the design,
on the flat. So sometimes people just send a sketch and then they just show the available colors. Sometimes you just do both. Yeah, so there are a lot of details as well on the line sheets. They even have prices, barcodes, especially if you're ready to sell things to order. The more detail you write, the better it is. So I just thought that it would be nice to share basically what line sheets look like.
So that is the end of today's episode. I'm sure some of you, the terms that have been used and the information is very new. Don't panic. It takes a while to get a hand over all these things. And the truth is, there are shortcuts you can do. You can actually decide to take instead of doing this whole process. The thing about this process and it being this thorough is that, of course, the more you practice, the easier it becomes, and the better it is for you, and the more professional you appear, and the easier it is for you to be able to outsource, and even the easier it is for you to be able to keep records. Because this is part of your records, this is part of your IP, intellectual property. Sometimes I personally feel like patterns and these Techpacks and everything are even more important than the sketches you do, because these are the details of your design that you really need to think through, to record and everything. So I hope that this information has been useful. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. As I've said before, I do consulting for this kind of work, so if you really need help, I can help you with a basic format for a startup. And I always advise my clients that if this is your first time coming up with a collection, do not produce so many unless you have an order. Don't produce so many that you wouldn't know what to do with all those clothes, because you can see already the process is so long and it's not cheap. The truth is, people who do this professionally charge a lot of money, and it's important to be sure. I would advise that you start even with just one design, and you can also see that this takes a very long process to do because there are just many elements to it. So next week I'm going to get more into sample making and whether or not you should consider doing ready to wear or made to measure, which I will explain more next week. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I guess I'll see you next week. Bye.